Hey there! Welcome back to Legend Finance. Thinking about becoming a landlord? Well, you're in the right place. In today's video, we're sharing the top 10 mistakes every new landlord should avoid. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just considering your first rental property, steering clear of these pitfalls can save you loads of time, money, and stress. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on our financial tips and advice. All set? Let's turn potential challenges into opportunities for success. Grab your notepad, it's time to get started. 1. Not running proper checks on a potential tenant. The thought of welcoming a new tenant and finally seeing that rent roll in. But let's pump the brakes a bit. We don't want to dive in headfirst without doing proper tenant background checks. Let's make it our mantra to always use a rental application form. It's this handy thing that gives us all the vital information about our potential tenants. I'll drop a link down below so we can all grab one. And remember, it doesn't hurt to shell out a little to snag a credit report too. It's a tiny investment that shows us if they've got any nasty habits like late payments or unpaid balances. You'd be amazed at the skeletons a credit report can uncover: delinquent accounts, collections, and more. And let's not forget to dial those references. Their past employers can spill some insightful beans. They don't say knowledge is power for nothing, right? 2. Check with employers and former landlord. All right, let's move on to the next crucial point. We shouldn't get too complacent in thinking that our property will always be filled with tenants. Now, before we put pen to paper on any deal, we need to make sure that we can handle the mortgage even during those dry spells without any tenants. Vacancy rates are a very real issue. We need to grasp the national and local averages and be prepared. We don't want to risk everything because we skipped a simple cash flow analysis and didn't keep a safety net to cover the mortgage payments when tenants become a rare sight. Now you might be thinking, how do we do that? Well, don't worry. Although we don't have any resources to link right now, there are plenty of online tools and calculators available to help manage and calculate our net cash flow. Websites like Investopedia and NerdWallet are great places to start. And as for investment analysis, many financial advisors offer initial free consultations to discuss strategies. It's like getting our own investment worksheet. This will help us figure out if a property makes sense as an investment from a cash flow perspective. 3. Underestimating the cost of repairs and maintenance. All right, let's tackle ongoing property maintenance next. We need to keep our property in top shape to keep the tenants interested and, most importantly, to keep them paying. Trust me, we can't play the slumlord game and still expect to pull in fair market rents. So we have to make sure we're charging enough rent to at least offset some of the ongoing maintenance costs. Keeping the place fresh with things like a new coat of paint or carpet cleaning between tenants is super important. We have to be ready to pull out our wallets or dip into our business funds for those unpredictable big-ticket repairs. Take, for instance, a situation where a storm blows through and there's damage to the roof. Suddenly, we're staring at a hefty $10,000 bill for repairs. Yeah, not exactly the kind of surprise we like, right? But that's the reality of property ownership, and we've got to be prepared for it. It's part of ensuring our investment properties stay in peak condition and keep attracting tenants. 4. Separate bank account. Mistake number 4, treating this like it's just a hobby. I've yet to meet someone who's built an extraordinary wealth portfolio by just dabbling in this. We need to take this job seriously. Owning rental properties is a business, and if we want to see profits, we need to operate it like one. That includes practical things like having a separate bank account. Moving on, let's remember that we need to keep our business dealings separate. So having a distinct bank account for deposits and expenses related to our rental properties is crucial. And folks, let's not neglect our bookkeeping. Having a robust system in place not only helps us stay organized, but also keeps us on the right side of the tax authorities. Speaking of which, we should also consider seeking advice from tax professionals. They can help us navigate the tax waters and ensure we're paying the right amount on our business income. Setting up a business, especially in the real estate rental industry, is more than just owning properties. It involves a lot of financial management, and we need to be prepared to handle that if we want to be successful. It's not just about making money, it's about managing it well. 5. Set up a business entity. Okay, let's get down to business. Literally, we must create a business entity. Trust me, it's a crucial step, not just for tax reasons, but also to shield ourselves from potential liabilities. This not only helps manage our property, but also provides a safety net in case something goes wrong. If someone trips, falls, and decides to sue, having a business entity can limit our personal liability. Our fifth point is that we can't just rely on a handshake in this business. For our legal protection, it's critical that every tenant sign a lease agreement. They need to understand that it's not just a piece of paper, it's a binding contract with enforceable terms. If we encounter issues with a tenant, we're going to need that written lease to hold them accountable. So be sure to know your state's laws regarding leases and use a form that's appropriate for your area. Online platforms like Find Law are handy resources for lease and rental agreements. 6. Neglecting tenants. Let's remember that the home we're renting out is our responsibility. Just because someone else lives there doesn't mean we can turn a blind eye. If we don't regularly check in with our tenants and, importantly, the condition of the property, we only have ourselves to blame if things go awry. Just make sure you're not violating any state laws regarding tenant privacy. We can't just show up unannounced, as that could land us in hot water, legally speaking. As per your local laws, always give notice in advance. 7. Not meeting state and local housing codes. As landlords, we must ensure that our properties meet health and safety standards. Failing to meet local housing codes isn't just a potential legal mess. It can also give our tenants a valid reason to break their lease. And it gets worse. They could even sue us and might be legally entitled to compensation for any damage or injury due to our negligence. Trust me, we want to steer clear of that situation. More often than not, judges tend to rule in favor of tenants, so we need to stay vigilant. 8. Delaying an eviction. Okay, let us move on to the next major issue, which is the failure to initiate the eviction process as quickly as is permitted by law. If we are having issues with a tenant, this mistake could end up being very expensive for us. If we are unable to determine how to proceed with this situation, it is time to bring in an attorney. Preferable one who specializes in evictions as their primary area of practice, a fantastic location in which to look for them. Communities that focus on investing locally in real estate. Connecting with local real estate investment groups and gathering referrals can be made much easier through the use of websites such as meetup.com. 9. Not enforcing terms on our lease. If our tenant keeps paying rent late and we specified that late payments will incur a penalty, then we should enforce it. If we stated no pets and suddenly there's a puppy yapping in the yard, enforce the penalty again. Being lenient might seem nice, but tenants can take it for granted, and before we know it, we're dealing with one problem after another. And here's a tip: if we put our property into a business entity, it can be easier to enforce these rules. Acting as the manager of the property rather than the owner can sometimes make it easier to enforce penalties without feeling guilty. 10. Asking illegal interview questions. Our 10th point, asking illegal interview questions. Guys, this happens way more than you'd think, and it can land us in a world of trouble without us even realizing it. As much as we want to be friendly and build rapport with potential tenants, we have to be careful with our questions. We don't want to risk giving a tenant grounds to sue us for discrimination. Let's not forget the Fair Housing Act, a part of the Civil Rights Act of 1968. It clearly states that we can't deny a tenant's application based on race, color, religion, national origin, sex, marital status, or disability. Even asking about their plans for kids can land us in hot water. 11. Keep written documentation all the time. Let's not forget that we absolutely need to keep written records of all our interactions with tenants. If we ever wind up in a tricky situation where we have to take a tenant to court, trust me, this documentation will be a lifesaver. We've got to jot down details of phone conversations, including when they occurred and what was discussed. Keep all the emails, voicemails, and text messages safe. Nothing should go in the trash. In fact, we should make sure everything is available in electronic format. A handy trick could be creating a dedicated notes section in our smartphones where we can keep a running log of all the interactions, making them easy to reference when necessary. Now here's a question for all of us. Have we ever made any of these mistakes as landlords? Are we about to invest in our first property, or are we already property owners? We would love to hear your thoughts and stories. Do share them in the comments below. And that's a wrap. As landlords, remember to treat everyone fairly, respect privacy, maintain your properties, handle deposits correctly, follow rent control, screen tenants, have clear agreements, insure adequately, communicate well, and know your local laws. Follow these tips, and you're all set for a smoother, legendary journey in property rental. Thanks for watching Legend Finance. Until next time, stay legendary.